The large, shining doors of the Galactic Council chamber opened with a soft hiss, drawing the attention of every delegate in the room. The council members, each from different corners of the universe, looked up as two figures entered, figures so powerful that the atmosphere in the room shifted in an instant. At the center of the room stood Ethan, a human diplomat. He had been through many tense meetings before, but nothing compared to what he was about to face. His mission was clear: bring peace, unite species, and ensure that humanity's future in the galaxy remained secure. But today, his task had just become much more complicated. The first to enter was Queen Illyra, an alien queen from the vast planet of Arthea. Her skin shimmered with a pale violet hue, and her golden eyes glowed with an ancient wisdom. She carried herself with an elegance and authority that left no doubt in anyone's mind. She was used to having the universe bow before her. Behind her was Queen Vora, a tall, fierce queen from the planet Centhera. Her dark, obsidian-like skin seemed to absorb the light around her. Her eyes were a deep crimson, burning with determination and power. She was no stranger to commanding armies and bending worlds to her will. Her presence was as overwhelming as it was intimidating. Ethan felt the weight of their gazes land on him as they both stepped forward, and for a brief moment, the room went deathly silent. The whispers of the other delegates faded into nothingness. His task had suddenly become personal. He was no longer just a diplomat. Today, he was at the center of a battle for his heart, a battle between two powerful alien queens. As both queens took their seats across from him, the tension in the air thickened. Ethan cleared his throat, trying to remain composed, but his mind was racing. How had he gotten here? He had always been trained to keep his emotions in check, to stay neutral, but now it felt impossible. Queen Illyra was the first to speak, her voice soft but commanding. "Ethan," she said, her eyes never leaving his, "you are a rare human, one who has the potential to unite many worlds. But power can be a dangerous thing. I offer you a future of strength. Under my rule, Earth will prosper. My people and I can protect your planet from any threats." Her words were sweet, promising power, protection, and a future of greatness. Ethan's heart raced as he tried to process everything she was offering. But before he could respond, Queen Vora leaned forward, her eyes narrowing with intensity. "Power, yes," she said, her voice rich with authority. "But I offer you something more. I offer you peace, Ethan. My reign brings stability. Under my leadership, Earth will not just survive. It will thrive without the constant threat of war. We will create lasting peace." Both queens were powerful, both were beautiful, and both held his future in their hands. But as they spoke, Ethan felt a growing unease. He didn't trust either of them completely, and yet he knew that one of these queens would change the course of humanity's future. The question was, which one? The room was silent again as the two queens waited for his response, their eyes fixed on him, both eager and patient. Ethan felt as though the weight of the universe was on his shoulders. He wasn't just a diplomat anymore. He was a man torn between two rulers, both of whom claimed his heart, his loyalty, and the fate of Earth. He swallowed hard, trying to clear his mind. The choice ahead of him would not only define his future, it could determine the future of the entire galaxy. Who would he choose? Which queen would win his heart? The question lingered in the air, and the answer was nowhere near clear. The atmosphere in the council chamber was heavy with anticipation as Ethan sat between the two alien queens. Their eyes were locked on him, each one waiting for him to make a decision. But he knew it wasn't that simple. The weight of their offers pressed down on him like 1,000 suns. Queen Illyra, the regal queen from Arthea, spoke again, her voice smooth and commanding. "Ethan, you must understand. My people have stood at the top of the galaxy for centuries. We have the power to shape civilizations, to crush enemies, and to build an empire that lasts for eternity. With me by your side, Earth will become one of the most powerful planets in the universe." She leaned forward, her golden eyes gleaming with certainty. "I can offer you more than just protection. I can offer you strength, influence, and a place at the very heart of a galactic empire. You'll have the power to shape the destiny of not just Earth, but the galaxy itself." Ethan couldn't help but feel the pull of her words. The idea of power, of standing alongside someone so mighty, was tempting. Earth, small, and often disregarded in the vastness of space, would rise to prominence under Illyra's rule. The thought of protecting humanity from the chaos of the galaxy was undeniably appealing. But even as Illyra's voice filled his mind with visions of grandeur, there was a part of him that remained cautious, that wondered if this offer came with hidden dangers. Before he could say a word, Queen Vora, the fierce queen of Zenthura, interrupted. Her voice was sharp, but there was an undeniable warmth beneath it, like the first rays of dawn breaking through the darkness. "Don't be fooled by her promises of power, Ethan," she said, her crimson eyes fixed on him. "Illyra's empire is built on conquest and fear. Her people may be powerful, but they are not peaceful. If you choose her, Earth will become just another pawn in her game." Ethan felt a shiver run down his spine as her words hit him hard. Queen Vora's warning echoed in his mind. Her offer was different. "I don't promise you domination. I offer you peace, Ethan. A chance to live without constant fear of war, without the bloodshed that has scared so many worlds." Her voice softened as she continued. "Under my reign, Earth will not be a weapon in a galactic war. Instead, it will be a symbol of what peace can accomplish, without the need for control or violence. You won't have to fight for every inch of progress. You'll have the chance to build a future where cooperation and trust are at the heart of all that we do." Ethan found himself torn. Vora's words were soothing, offering a future of stability and peace, but there was something unsettling about the idea of a life without the fire that Illyra offered. Could he trust Vora's vision of peace? Would it be too passive, too weak to protect Earth from the dangers lurking in the universe? The two queens stared at him, their eyes full of expectation. Ethan could feel the pull of both their offers, each tugging at his heart in a different way. Power and influence from Illyra, or peace and security from Vora. Each was a path that could lead to a different future, but both came with their own risks. His heart raced as the weight of the decision became clearer. Both queens were powerful, wise, and capable, but which one could truly offer him and Earth the future they deserved? Would he risk the uncertainty of power, or would he choose the comfort of peace? The room seemed to close in around him, the faces of the other delegates blurring in the background. It was just him and the two queens now, and the fate of Earth rested on his choice. Ethan took a deep breath. "I need time," he said, his voice steady, though his mind was anything but. "I can't make this decision now. I need to see more, understand more." Queen Illyra's eyes narrowed, but she nodded, her expression unreadable. "Very well. But time is not on your side, human. Choose wisely." Queen Vora's gaze softened, but there was a quiet urgency in her voice. "Time is on your side. Ethan, don't rush. This is not just about power or peace. It's about what is best for you and for Earth." As both queens stood up, their power filling the room, Ethan couldn't help but feel that the decision before him was far more complicated than he had ever imagined. The fate of Earth and his heart hung in the balance. He was no longer just a diplomat. He was now a man trapped between two worlds, two queens, and a future that could be shaped in so many ways. The tension in the air grew thicker, and as the queens walked away, Ethan knew that his journey had only just begun. The real test was only beginning, and the choice that lay ahead would change everything. "You said." Days passed since the two queens had made their offers, and Ethan found himself lost in a sea of thoughts. He had always prided himself on making decisions based on logic, but this wasn't just a matter of logic anymore. This was about his heart, about his future, and about the future of Earth itself. The halls of the Galactic Council were quieter than usual. The typical buzz of alien delegates discussing trade, peace, and warfare seemed distant now. All Ethan could think about were the promises made by Queen Illyra and Queen Vora. Both had given him choices, grand choices, but there was something beneath the surface he couldn't ignore. The pressure of the decision weighed heavier on him as the days went by, and the doubts kept creeping in. Late one night, unable to sleep, Ethan stood by the large windows of his quarters, gazing out at the vastness of space. His reflection in the glass was a constant reminder of the position he was in. A human diplomat, the only one who could bridge the gap between Earth and the alien races of the galaxy. But now, this role had become something he had never expected. He wasn't just uniting worlds. He was at the center of a battle for his heart. Just then, his communicator beeped softly, breaking the silence. Ethan quickly moved to answer it, surprised to see a message from one of the highest-ranking members of the Galactic Council, Zoran, a trusted advisor and old friend. Ethan. The message began. I've heard whispers, rumors about the true nature of the Queen's intentions. I suggest you be cautious. The stakes are higher than you realize. The message sent a chill down his spine. Zoran was always cryptic, but he was never wrong. Ethan quickly typed a response. Zoran, what are you talking about? I'm caught between two queens, Illyra and Vora. They both promise a future for Earth, but neither one seems to be fully honest. What is the truth? Zoran's reply came almost instantly. Meet me in the council archives at 600 hours. I'll explain everything. But know this, the queens are not what they seem. Ethan's heart raced as he read the message. Not what they seem. What did that mean? Was there something about Illyra and Vora that he didn't understand? Both had seemed so genuine, so determined to secure Earth's future, but now the doubts were growing. At the first light of dawn, Ethan made his way to the council archives. The large, dimly lit room was filled with ancient alien texts and holographic displays. It was here that the council kept its most sensitive and classified information. Zoran was waiting for him by one of the data terminals. Zoran, what's going on? Ethan asked, his voice low with concern. Zoran motioned for Ethan to sit. There are things you need to know about both queens. Queen Illyra, though powerful, has a history of expanding her empire by force. Her promises of power are a facade. If Earth were to ally with her, Earth would not be a partner, it would be a subject. Ethan's eyes widened in shock. You mean she would conquer us? Zoran nodded slowly. Yes. She would use you, Ethan. She would use your diplomatic skills to break Earth's defenses and take control. Ethan's mind raced. He had felt something was off with Illyra's offer, but he hadn't wanted to believe it. What about Queen Vora? He asked. Zoran hesitated for a moment. Queen Vora's vision is different, but there is a cost. Her offer of peace isn't as innocent as it appears. Her vision of peace is built on control, not harmony. She uses the threat of peace as a tool to manipulate and divide. Her rule isn't free from sacrifice. She demands total loyalty. Any rebellion against her would be crushed, without mercy. Ethan felt a weight pressed down on him. Two queens, each offering a path for Earth, but both were hiding their true intentions. The future he had hoped for, a future of peace and unity, seemed more impossible with every passing moment. Both options were laced with danger. Zoran leaned forward, his eyes intense. You need to decide, Ethan. Both queens are dangerous, but there's another path. A path that doesn't involve either of them. But it will require sacrifice, and it will challenge everything you've believed in. Ethan's heart pounded in his chest. What is this path, Zoran? What do I need to do? Zoran stood up, turning to one of the holographic displays. You'll find the answer in the archives. But be careful, Ethan. The truth is not always what it seems, and the path you choose will shape the future of Earth and your heart forever. With that, Zoran's image disappeared, leaving Ethan alone in the vast silence of the council archives. His mind was spinning. Both queens had hidden agendas, and now There was talk of a third option, one that didn't involve them at all. But what could it be? As Ethan searched through the archives, he couldn't shake the feeling that the truth was far more complicated than he had ever imagined. He was not just a diplomat anymore. He was a man standing at the crossroads of the galaxy, with the weight of Earth's future and his heart hanging in the balance. The path ahead was clouded in uncertainty, but one thing was certain: his decision would change everything. Ethan spent the following days in a whirlwind of uncertainty, trying to make sense of the troubling information Zoran had revealed. The weight of the decision ahead was becoming unbearable. Both queens had shown their power, their charm, and their offers, but now it seemed there were hidden layers to their intentions. He couldn't shake the feeling that neither path could truly lead to the peace and prosperity he had hoped for Earth. The Council archives were no longer just a place of historical records. They had become Ethan's refuge. Late one evening, as the stars shone brightly outside his window, he returned to the hidden corners of the archives. After Zoran's warning, he had begun his own search for answers. Answers that had been buried for centuries. Answers that the Council had kept from the public eye. As he dug deeper into the ancient data, Ethan stumbled upon something unexpected. A record of a secret alliance, formed hundreds of years ago, between Earth and a now-forgotten alien race called the Tavari. The Tavari were known for their wisdom and advanced technology, but their existence had been erased from most galactic history. According to the data, the Tavari had once been allies of Earth, and their influence had shaped much of human history in ways the galaxy had long forgotten. Ethan's pulse quickened as he continued reading. The alliance had been sealed under very specific conditions. The Tavari had agreed to help Earth rise to prominence in exchange for a diplomatic bond with the human race. But there was something more, something darker. The Tavari had also foreseen that one day the human race would have to make a difficult choice between two paths, one that promised power and domination, and another that offered peace, but at a significant cost. He leaned back, trying to process this new revelation. Was this what Zoran had hinted at? Was this the hidden path, the one that could free him from the choices between Illyra and Vora? Could it be that the Tavari had prepared Earth for this very moment, anticipating the arrival of these two queens and the conflict that would follow? Before he could delve deeper into his discovery, a sharp knock at the door broke his concentration. His heart raced as he turned, wondering who could be seeking him at such an hour. The door opened slowly, revealing none other than Queen Illyra herself. Her violet skin shimmered in the dim light, and her golden eyes were steady. But there was something different in her gaze, something more calculating. "Ethan," she said softly, entering the room without waiting for an invitation. "I've been thinking about our last conversation. I believe we need to discuss the future of Earth. I want to offer you something more, something that will help you understand my vision for our partnership." Ethan didn't know whether to be relieved or suspicious. Illyra had never been one to show vulnerability, but now she seemed different, less like a queen offering power and more like a woman with a secret she was ready to share. "I've been reading," Ethan replied cautiously, still keeping the archive's secrets close to his chest. "And I've come across some things that are hard to ignore." Illyra's expression shifted, a flicker of curiosity passing over her features. "What have you found?" she asked, her voice still calm but tinged with an edge of interest. Ethan hesitated. He knew he couldn't tell her everything, not yet, but he also knew that if he was going to make a decision, he had to be careful. "I've been looking into Earth's history, into old alliances that were formed before the Council. There's something strange about what I found, something that could change everything." Illyra stepped closer, her eyes narrowing slightly. "What are you suggesting, Ethan? That you no longer trust me? That you think I've been lying to you?" Her voice was calm, but Ethan could feel the pressure building. Her beauty and charm were undeniable, but he had learned from experience that appearances could be deceiving. He had to tread carefully. "I'm not suggesting anything," he replied, keeping his tone even. "But there's more at play here than either of us understands. and I'm starting to believe that the decision isn't as simple as choosing between you and Queen Vora." Illyra seemed to study him for a moment, as if weighing his words. "I see," she said softly, her voice now colder. "You think there is a third option, don't you?" Ethan's heart skipped a beat. Had she guessed what he had found? The Taveri alliance, the hidden truths buried deep in the archives, it all seemed to be coming together. But Illyra's next words shocked him. "I know what you found, Ethan, and I know what you're considering." She paused, her eyes darkening. "You may think that the Taveri are your answer, but they are not. The Taveri are not your friends. They are ancient manipulators, using their knowledge to control races, to play with the fates of others for their own gain." Ethan stared at her, stunned. Was Illyra warning him away from the Taveri, or was she trying to keep him in the dark? "Don't trust them," Illyra continued, her voice now sharp. "Their alliance with Earth was never meant to be. It was a trap, designed to make you think you have options when, in fact, you have none." Ethan felt his mind whirl with confusion. He had thought the Taveri might offer an alternative path, one that could save Earth from the control of both queens. But now, Illyra's words cast doubt on everything. "I'll choose what I believe is best for Earth," Ethan said firmly, but his voice shook with uncertainty. "And I'll find the truth, no matter where it leads." Illyra's eyes flashed with something he couldn't quite place. Anger, perhaps, or was it desperation? "Be careful, Ethan," she warned, her tone low and menacing. "The truth you're searching for may not be something you can handle, and if you uncover what's really going on, you might not like what you find." As she turned and left, leaving Ethan alone in the dim light of the archives, he couldn't shake the feeling that he was now standing on the edge of something far larger and more dangerous than he had ever imagined. The hidden truths were coming to the surface, and Ethan realized that no matter which queen he chose, the future of Earth, and his own heart, was on the line. The game had changed. Ethan sat alone in his quarters, his hands trembling as he tried to make sense of everything he had learned. Queen Illyra's warning about the Taveri, combined with the unsettling truth he had uncovered in the archives, made him question everything. He had always believed in diplomacy and peace, but now, the paths before him seemed murkier than ever. The choices were not just about the queens. They were about the very future of humanity, the secrets of the galaxy, and his own future as a diplomat. As the day dragged on, Ethan's mind kept returning to the one thing that had kept him awake at night: his heart. Both queens had their allure, each offering a future that seemed so different, yet both came with hidden dangers. And as much as he wanted to protect Earth, he couldn't ignore the growing tension in his chest, the knowledge that this decision would affect not only his future but the fate of those he cared about. The galaxy seemed too vast, too filled with hidden dangers and power struggles. But Earth was where his heart was. His people were vulnerable, small in the grand scheme of the galaxy, yet capable of great things. It was up to him to ensure they didn't fall into the hands of someone who would use them as a pawn, or worse, destroy them in the pursuit of dominance. Suddenly, there was a knock at his door. His pulse quickened, and he stood up, ready for whatever might come next. When he opened it, he found none other than Queen Vora. The fiery red hues of her armor shimmered under the light, and her crimson eyes pierced through him as if she already knew the burden he carried. "Ethan," she said in her soft, almost melodic voice, "I need to speak with you. It's urgent." Without waiting for a response, she entered, her presence filling the room with an aura of power and serenity. She didn't need to ask permission. Vora had always been the one to take charge, to demand answers from the universe itself. "What is it, Queen Vora?" Ethan asked, trying to hide the exhaustion in his voice. He had been battling inner demons all day, and he wasn't sure if he could handle another conversation about what came next. Vora studied him, her gaze gentle yet intense. "I know you're struggling with the choices before you," she said, her voice surprisingly calm. "I know you've heard whispers about me and Illyra, about our true intentions. but I want you to hear it from me, not from rumors or speculation." She stepped closer, her voice becoming more urgent. "Ethan, Earth's future is tied to more than just the strength of the queens who fight for it. It's about the legacy we leave behind. If you choose me, Earth will not be subject to the whims of power-hungry conquerors. Under my rule, you will have autonomy, peace, and the chance to build something meaningful, something lasting." Ethan felt the pull of her words. Her promises of peace had always been comforting, offering him a vision of a future where Earth could thrive without fear of war or dominance. But now, the warning from Illyra echoed in his mind, and doubts crept in. Could he trust Vora? Was her vision of peace truly just a facade to control Earth in the long run? As he remained silent, lost in thought, Vora's expression softened. "But Ethan, there is something else, something you need to know. I didn't just come here to ask you to choose me. I came to offer you something more." His eyes met hers. "What do you mean?" "I've learned the truth," Vora said quietly, "about the Tavari, about their manipulation. They were never allies to Earth. They planted their seeds of influence in your history for a reason. They know that a time would come when humanity would be caught between two powerful forces, and they would be there to control the outcome. They'd been watching us all along." Ethan felt his breath catch in his throat. So, Illyra had been right. The Tavari weren't just a forgotten race. They had been manipulating events from the shadows all along. The decision he had to make wasn't just about choosing a queen. It was about rejecting the Tavari's quiet influence and asserting humanity's place in the galaxy. Vora stepped back, letting the gravity of her words settle. "The Tavari may have their plans, but they cannot control your future. You are the one who decides how humanity will be shaped. Choose wisely, Ethan. Choose a path that does not fall prey to their schemes." Ethan's mind raced. His thoughts were a whirlwind of emotions, conflicting desires, and uncertain truths. He had been living in the shadow of these two queens, each one offering him a future, each one hiding something beneath the surface. But Vora's words made it clear there was more at play here than he had ever realized. The Tavari had set this in motion, manipulating both queens in a twisted game of power. The path forward wasn't clear, and yet something deep inside him told him that he had to make the right choice, for Earth, for his people, and for his own heart. As he stared at Vora, the weight of her words sinking in, he realized one thing. He could no longer sit on the fence. He couldn't afford to wait any longer. This was the moment. The choice had to be made. "I'll make my decision soon," he said quietly, his voice filled with determination. "But before I do, there's one last thing I need to know. What's the true cost of your peace, Queen Vora? What's the price Earth will pay for that peace?" Vora's eyes darkened for a moment, and she gave a slight nod. "Everything comes at a cost, Ethan. I can promise you peace, but I cannot promise it will come without sacrifice. You will have to trust me, and in doing so, trust that Earth can thrive without the shackles of domination or conquest." She paused, as if gathering her thoughts. "But if you choose this path, it will require more than diplomacy. It will require you to lead Earth into a new era, one where we forge our own future, free from the manipulations of other forces." Ethan nodded slowly, understanding the gravity of her words. His heart was heavy, but there was something in Vora's eyes, something that spoke to him more than Illyra's promises of power and control. As Vora turned to leave, she paused at the door. "I trust you will make the right choice, Ethan. The fate of Earth and the galaxy rests in your hands." With those words, she was gone, leaving Ethan alone once more with the weight of the decision ahead. The tension in the air was thick, and Ethan knew that this choice would determine everything: the future of humanity, the balance of power in the galaxy, and his own future. He took a deep breath, his heart racing. The time had come. The fate of Earth, and his own heart, was in his hands. Ethan stood at the edge of the balcony, staring out into the infinite void of space. The stars were distant, their cold, indifferent light reflecting his inner turmoil. He had never imagined that his diplomatic career would lead him here, caught between two powerful queens, each offering a different future for Earth, each hiding their own truths. But now, the time to decide had come, and it was more complicated than ever. He couldn't afford to make a mistake. The stakes were too high. His mind was racing, trying to balance everything he had learned in the last few days. The Tavares manipulations, Queen Illyra's offer of power, Queen Vora's promise of peace, and the unknown third option he had been desperately seeking. The message Zoran had given him echoed in his ears. The Tavares are not your friends. They manipulate, control, and play with the fates of others. Yet the Tavares' words about humanity's potential to decide its own fate seemed like a distant echo of something more grand. Ethan's thoughts turned back to Vora. She had spoken of trust, of sacrifice, and of the cost of peace. But what was that cost? What did she truly want from Earth? He had trusted her once, but as the days had passed, he couldn't shake the doubt that lingered in his chest. What if peace under her reign was just another form of control? And then there was Illyra. Her charisma was undeniable, her promises of strength and prosperity hard to ignore. But Zoran had warned him about her. If Earth aligned with her, it would be a subject of her empire, not a partner. Illyra's willingness to manipulate Ethan and use his position for her own gain had become clearer with every interaction. Still, a part of him wondered, was there something more to her? Something he hadn't seen yet. But now, with Vora's visit still fresh in his mind, he felt the pull of her words. She had offered a vision of peace, of a future where Earth could thrive on its own terms, freed from the shadow of empires. And yet, there was still something about her that made him uneasy. Her assurances of autonomy seemed too perfect, too easy. He knew from experience that peace didn't come without a price. What if Vora's peace was built on the same foundation of manipulation and control as Illyra's power? Suddenly, Ethan realized something important. This wasn't just a political decision. It was a personal one. His heart was torn. Was he choosing between two powerful women, or was he choosing between two possible futures for Earth? A future of dominance or a future of peace? A future of control or a future of freedom? He had always believed in the power of diplomacy, in the ability to navigate between extremes to find a middle ground. But now, he realized that finding a middle ground wasn't an option. Earth couldn't afford to be caught between two opposing queens who would only use him for their own agendas. He needed a path that was truly his own. His fingers brushed against the cool surface of the balcony as he considered everything he had learned. The Tavares, the queens, the promises of power and peace, all of it was part of something much larger. His decision would not only shape the future of Earth, but also determine his role in it. He was more than just a diplomat now. He was a key player in an intergalactic struggle that would shape the course of history. The sound of footsteps interrupted his thoughts. Turning around, Ethan found Zoran standing in the doorway. His face was grim, his eyes tired, as though the weight of the universe was pressing down on him. "Ethan," Zoran said quietly, his voice carrying the weight of unspoken truths. "It's time." Ethan nodded slowly, his mind still spinning. "I've been thinking, Zoran, and I don't know if I can make the right choice. The queens, Vora and Illyra, they both offer Earth something, but I don't trust either of them fully. I keep hearing their words, but there's something underneath it all. Something I can't put my finger on." Zoran's gaze softened. "The truth is never simple, Ethan. You're not just choosing a queen. You're choosing a path for Earth, for the future of humanity." "I know," Ethan murmured, his voice heavy with the weight of the decision. "But how do I know what's the right choice? I've spent my entire life trying to bring peace, but now it seems like there's no peace at all." Zoran stepped closer, his face serious. "There's always a choice, Ethan. But sometimes the choice is not just about what's best for others. It's about what's best for you, for your heart. The queens may offer you power or peace, but they're not the ones who will live with the consequences of your decision. You will." Ethan stared at him, confused. What do you mean? The decision you make isn't just about Earth, Zoran said. It's about your heart, your connection to this galaxy, your place in it. The future you choose will define who you are. The queens may have their kingdoms, their powers, but the true power lies within you. You're the one who must decide. Zoran's words echoed in Ethan's mind as he looked out into the stars once more. Was it really that simple? Was the answer to the conflict between Vora and Illyra really a matter of choosing what felt right in his heart? He had spent so long trying to be logical, trying to think of what was best for Earth, but maybe the answer was deeper than that. He knew it wasn't just about what would give Earth the best future. It was about what future he wanted to create. Did he want to build a future with power, security, and fear? Or did he want to build a future with peace, freedom, and trust, no matter the cost? As Ethan stood there, the stars glittering before him, a sense of clarity began to form. His heart knew the answer. It had always known. He turned to Zoran, his voice steady but filled with determination. I've made my choice. I will no longer be a pawn in their game. I will fight for Earth's future, but I will do it on my terms. Zoran gave him a small nod of approval, his eyes filled with understanding. Then you know what you must do. There's no turning back now. Ethan turned back to face the stars, his heart resolute. The time had come to make his stand. For Earth, for humanity, and for himself. The future was his to shape, and nothing, not even the queens, could take that from him. Ethan stood at the heart of the great hall, his thoughts racing. The time had come. His decision was final. And now he would have to face the consequences. Two powerful queens, each with their own vision for the future of Earth, had come to claim him, each offering him a path. But now it was time to stand tall, to make a choice that would not just affect his life, but the entire galaxy. Vora had been waiting for him, her crimson eyes fixed on him with a quiet, almost predatory intensity. She had always believed she was the better choice for Earth, the one who could offer peace, a future of autonomy. Her calm, composed demeanor had always been a contrast to Illyra's fiery, commanding presence. But Ethan knew what he had to do. He couldn't let either of them manipulate him. He had already made his decision, and as much as he respected Vora, his heart had chosen a different path. The fate of Earth depended on it. As the two queens entered the hall, a silence fell over the room. The weight of the moment pressed down on Ethan's shoulders, but he refused to falter. He had already come this far. There would be no turning back now. Illyra's arrival was heralded by the clash of her heavy footsteps, the sound echoing through the chamber as she entered with an air of authority. She looked at Ethan with an unreadable expression, her eyes flashing with an emotion he couldn't quite name. Perhaps it was frustration or anger, or maybe just the pride that came with knowing she had been manipulating him for so long. I hope you've made your decision wisely, human diplomat, Illyra said, her voice dripping with confidence. You should know, there's a price for every choice you make. The question is, are you willing to pay it? Ethan's eyes locked onto hers. He stood tall, his expression unwavering. I've already made my choice, and it's not about the price. It's about the future of Earth and humanity's place in the galaxy. Vora stepped forward then, her eyes narrowed in a mixture of surprise and uncertainty. Ethan, you can't possibly be serious. You've seen what Illyra offers. She'll use you as her pawn, just as she's done with others. We can offer peace, a future where Earth is free from the control of tyrants. I don't want peace under control, Ethan replied firmly, his voice cutting through the tension in the room. I want a future where Earth decides its own destiny, where humanity isn't a pawn in someone else's game. Illyra's lips curled into a smirk, her eyes flashing. You really believe that? She scoffed. You think you can stop me? I've already prepared everything. Earth will fall in line with or without your consent. You're wrong, Ethan shot back, his voice cold but resolute. It's not about whether you're prepared. It's about humanity refusing to be controlled. I refuse to let you play with Earth's future. I refuse to let you think you can decide for us." The air seemed to thicken, a palpable tension rising between the two queens, their conflicting energies colliding in a storm of words. Vora's voice softened, but it held a grave warning. "Ethan, the Tavari." "The Tavari?" Ethan interrupted, shaking his head. "The Tavari have been playing both sides. You've both been manipulated by them in ways you don't even realize. I've learned everything I need to know, and now I'm taking the future back into my hands." Vora hesitated for a moment, her expression softening just slightly. "You're right," she said quietly. "The Tavari have been pulling strings, but they are not our only enemy. We must unite against the forces that seek to control us. Your future, Ethan, is not just about one queen or another. It's about more than that. It's about what kind of galaxy we will live in. A galaxy ruled by power and control, or one where we stand together, free and strong." Ethan's heart pounded as he processed her words. Was he truly ready to stand against both queens? Was he strong enough to fight the Tavari's influence? He glanced at Vora, and then at Illyra, who stood motionless, her sharp gaze piercing through him like a blade. It wasn't just a political battle anymore. It was a battle for Earth's soul, a battle to define humanity's place in the galaxy. His decision would echo through the stars, and he couldn't afford to fail. "I will choose Earth," Ethan said, his voice filled with determination. "Not as a pawn in your game, but as a leader, as someone who will fight for what's right. I will stand against the Tavari, and I will stand against anyone who threatens Earth's sovereignty. No one will control us. Not you, not the Tavari, and not anyone." The room fell silent as the gravity of his words settled over the queens. Vora's expression softened, her eyes reflecting a deep, silent understanding. She had known this was coming. But Illyra's face remained steely, her lips pressed tightly together, as if she were weighing something heavy in her mind. "I see." Illyra finally spoke, her voice low and dangerous. "Then let the games begin, human diplomat. We shall see who will win." Vora stepped forward, her eyes locked on Ethan. "Then you will have my support, Ethan. Together, we will fight for Earth's future. And together, we will ensure the Tavari do not control our destiny." Ethan nodded, his heart resolute. The battle ahead would be unlike any other. It would be a fight for survival, for freedom, for the soul of Earth itself. As the queens turned to leave, Ethan stood tall, knowing that the fate of the galaxy rested in his hands. This was his final stand, and he would not fail.